YouTube, this is the Hard Bastard, and I've come across an article thanks to there's a Twitter user that goes by the name of Slicks Tweets. He's always posting lots of different articles on different subjects, but this one, the headline, I thought, oh, this has to be some sort of, this can't be as cut and dry as it's saying. This is amazing. Congresswoman returns from Syria with proof Obama funded ISIS. Tulsi Gabbard reveals she has evidence of Obama funding ISIS. And I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be one of those articles. I'm going to have to go ahead and do a lot of digging for the actual quotes or anything. And again, not saying anything in regards to Neon Nettle, because I'm the type of person, I just double and triple check. If I see an article somewhere, I always go to a second and third site just to see. I do that with everything, whether it's bullshit outlets like CNN and New York Times, or if it's with more ones that I consider reputable, like, The Intercept, for example. But what's amazing about this is, well, you'll see. Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard has returned from a fact-finding mission in Syria with what she claims is definitive proof that the Obama administration funded and armed ISIS and Al-Qaeda. Gabbard traveled to Syria on a secret assignment to find evidence of the true agenda behind what was happening without the lies and propaganda from the U.S. government and media. By speaking to the people on the ground, such as Syrian students, entrepreneurs, academics, and aid workers. This is truly an amazing thing. First of all, we have a politician, Tulsi Gabbard, who I really don't have that much of an issue with, which is rare. There's really not many politicians that I can say that about. And she's credible, and she's a respectable person. And what's amazing, she served in the military. She's like a hero, and she is a Democrat. It's this is completely bizarre. She is a person that I think could potentially bridge gaps between at least halfway to a quarter of the way sane Republicans and Democrats. And she just was like, fuck it, I'm going to go to Syria and just get the evidence for myself. Massive respect for that. That's just incredible. And so it's very important that once you do that, what do you do with that evidence? How do you treat that evidence? What we have here is, I would refer to as a unicorn. That not only do you get the evidence, but you're honest with it. And I'm going to show you the toll already that she's taking for it. And understand something. Syria is one of arguably, well, maybe it's not arguably the biggest blunder that the United States made under Obama, but it's a horrific situation. What you have, in a nutshell, and Syria is a newer thing that I have been looking into, so if I have anything incorrect, certainly post. But in a nutshell, basically what you have is, because the United States under Obama had such a hard-on for regime change, they attempted to get rid of Assad, Assad is horrible, make no mistake, but who's fighting Assad? Is it this group of good guys, or what they refer to moderate rebels? No, it's horrific fucking terrorists, evil-ass terrorists fighting an evil-ass dictator. The problem here, though, is it seems as the evil-ass dictator, compared to the terrorists, would be a better option. In fact, it seems like there's a decent amount of the population of Syrians, the people who are most affected by the U.S. Engaging in regime change here. It seems as though they would rather live under Assad. From what I understand, if you're a Syrian, as long as you go along with the government, it seems like you're okay. If you rebel at all against the government, it's going to be as bad as it gets. And that's horrible. I mean, make no mistake. However, I would imagine that that's at least better than living under ISIS or these fucking Al-Qaeda motherfuckers. That the dishonest liars, the people that attack Tulsi Gabbard, act as if, you know, it's okay, the shit that they've done, like decapitating children. Oh, that's okay. But no. We have to talk about all the horrors of Assad and not treat the information honestly or accurately. But we'll get into all that here. But that's your basic setup for what Syria is. And, oh, by the way, hundreds of thousands of civilians have been killed. And I think the United States and Obama have a lot of blood on its hands. And this is a situation that needs to be resolved. Anyway, let's continue. So, during her trip, she visited Damascus and Aleppo and spoke with civilians, religious leaders, opposition leaders, and President Assad, and is now calling on the U.S. to put an end to the illegal war she believes it wages in Syria. So not only do you have a person who wants to find the truth, but who has a decent understanding of the situation going in. This is a person that should be celebrated, frankly. Now, look, I imagine she's a politician, so I'm sure there's some dirt of some sort. And if there is something that you feel as though disqualifies her as being a person that is at least a halfway respectable politician, then yeah, let me know. I'll look at it. YNW reports immediately on her return, CNN booked her for an exclusive interview, and Gabbard told them exactly what they didn't want to hear. She has proof the Obama administration was funding ISIS and Al-Qaeda. Now, I'm not going to get into the interview because we're going to actually watch it, because this is why this was an amazing article, because I'm like, oh, they're just referring to a CNN interview. I can just watch that for myself and make sure what they're quoting here is accurate. And when I first read this, I thought, holy shit, she said this on the air? No. I'm like, there's no way. I'm like, she said it on the air and they allowed it? This is amazing. So, like, she's going into the interview that we're going to watch, and I think that's really the bottom line here. Oh, no, there's something that they added at the end. Brave Tulsi Gabbard completely deconstructed the false narrative sold by the Muslim Brotherhood, Obama administration, John McCain, Adam Kinzinger, who is a fucking animal. Now you'll say, oh, that's fucking harsh, calling him an animal? Why would you say such a thing? Well, this is why. Adam Kinzinger. Now look, it's one thing if you disagree with Tulsi Gabbard on her policy, on what she did, on the situation in regards to Syria. But what is disgraceful and makes a person an animal, in my opinion, is when you use the suffering of people in your, or to shame your opponent. And let me give an example of what I mean. This is Adam Kinzinger. Now, this is one of these motherfuckers that when he goes along in Congress, for example, and tries to discuss his position on Syria, he's always throwing up pictures. Remember this picture? I'm gonna, not focus on it because it's horrifying. Of the little boy who apparently, I guess, was caught up in I forget what the details were. And then he uses that picture and says, by meeting with Assad, Tulsi Gabbard has legitimized his dictatorship and his genocide. It is beyond reprehensible. See, when you're dishonest at a level where your dishonesty, because an honest person would also acknowledge that the people that you think are good, or at least are, I mean, you're supporting. You might not view the moderate rebels as good. First of all, that's a myth, a moderate rebel. But you are excusing what they've done. And what they've done to people is also horrific. And to ignore that and then exploit this little child to make your political position makes you an animal in my book. Maybe I'm too... Look, you guys, I think, know from, if you've been watching from the Pizzagate videos, I can be unreasonable. I think you can make the argument that I am overly harsh when it comes to people abusing kids. And I am, like, for example, there are people, even people that I respect, I don't respect them on this position, but on other things I respect them, that, for example, have you heard the argument, whenever pedophilia is brought up, there are some people that bring up this argument that I think is irrelevant about, oh, well, there's a difference between, like, you know, some people are sexually attracted to people under 12. So, like, one is a pedophile, one's not, or, like, there's some, I don't think I'm accurately reflecting the argument from the standpoint of, on technical grounds. I forget what they're using as an example, that somehow if you want to fuck a 13 or 14-year-old, that, like, somehow it's not pedophilia, it's even though it's illegal, it's something different because there's a dividing line between prepubescent and postpubescent. Now, technically that's true, obviously, scientifically, biologically, it's true, but is it relevant? Who fucking, like, what's the difference? Why would you even bring that up? Now, maybe that's unreasonable on my part. Or, on the other hand, people actually seriously suggesting to me and bringing up to me in a discussion about whether it's child porn or pedophiles, of, oh, well, there's, you know, pedophiles that actually molest children, and then there's non-offending pedophiles, and they don't do anything. They didn't do nothing. Fuck that shit. Now, again, I am accepting that maybe I'm unreasonable when I tell you to fuck yourself with those arguments, and that I'm not willing to hear them. Okay, but I embrace that. I am unreasonable when it comes to that. So maybe I'm just being unreasonable when it comes to exploiting a child's picture in this case. But I think it makes Adam Kinzinger a fucking animal. That's just my opinion. Now, let's get back to the article. Anyway. So, the article saying Tulsi Gabbard deconstructed the false narrative sold by these people, one of which is an animal, and Evan McMillan, all of whom supported the various terrorist factions within Syria. This is true, and sets the record straight. There are no moderate rebels in Syria. Now, I knew this, and I would imagine most of you watching this who have researched Syria knew this, especially like when the beheading of the child video came out. Yeah. Oh, whoops, sorry, didn't mean to show you all that and show you that the people that the United States are supporting are also fucking terrorists. Moderate rebels is an Obama-era propaganda myth. The opposition to Assad is led by ISIS and Al-Qaeda, and they are raping, kidnapping, murdering, Syrian women, men, and children, and any smaller rebel groups fighting against Assad are fighting in coalition with ISIS and Al-Qaeda. These are the groups the Obama administration was funding and supporting. Now, some of this we saw from WikiLeaks, but now we have an on-the-ground person. But instead of taking the article's word for it, let's watch the interview, because the internet's amazing and we can watch the interview. Let's see. And you know what, I think it's good to just give props to a outlet, even though, like I said, if I've never heard of it, that doesn't mean it could be a very popular website. In fact, if you go by the like page, 476,000 likes, I think what we have here is a situation of a popular website that I'm not aware of that I should add to my list of websites. But from this standpoint, from this article, Neon Nettle has been very accurate, so props to Neon Nettle. Now let's watch the interview.
Welcome back to Lead, our world lead now. A desperate plea for help. 7-year-old Bana Alabed has become the face of innocent civilians suffering in Syria's deadly civil war. The young girl is now safely living in Turkey with her family. But earlier today, she tweeted a message to President Trump, quote, "I beg you, can you do something for the children of Syria? If you can, I will be your best friend. Thank you."
Now, there's something I have to add here. There seems to be a solid line of evidence. It seems circumstantial at this point. If I have not fully investigated this, but this Twitter account could actually be propaganda. There were people that found, like, I think the IP address of where it was, like, when it was opened, and the IP address, I think they traced the IP address of who opened the account was not in Syria. And given the fact that CNN has labeled people who, when you actually research them, are terrorists and have claimed that they're journalists. Now, they're not saying when they interview them that they're CNN journalists. They're just saying that they're like independent on-the-ground journalists from Syria. Some of them, not all of them, but some of them actually turned out to be fucking terrorists, which is hilarious. So I can't say for sure Baina Alibed is propaganda, but I do not view this as a credible tweet, at least at the moment.
Unquote. This comes as a fragile ceasefire between Syrian government forces and rebel factions is holding for now. Joining me now in a CNN exclusive is Democratic Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard.
Now, I think, frankly, the way this is set up, because notice the intro, they put the alleged, I'm saying it's allegedly propaganda, I'm not 100% sure, but they set this up. Like, I really think Jake Tapper thought she was going to come and just support the narrative. You know, she's a Democrat. She's been on the show before. He sets it up with propaganda, and I think he's just going to be completely surprised by what she says.
Of Hawaii, she just returned from a secret trip to Syria. Congresswoman Gabbard, thanks for coming and sharing your story with us.
Aloha, Jake. Good to be with you.
By the way, it's not secret. The State Department, from what I understand, knew about this. So that's kind of, I don't know, maybe he did know ahead of time what she was going to say, because I don't like the way that that was phrased.
So you were in Syria for 4 days. Did you meet with President Bashar al-Assad?
I did. You know, my reason for going to visit Syria was really because of the suffering of the Syrian people that has been weighing heavily on my heart. I wanted to see if there was, in some small way, a way that I could express the love and the aloha and the care that the American people have for the people of Syria, and to see firsthand what was happening there, to see that situation there.
What did Assad have to say?
Do you notice how he completely just ignores what she just said in regards to the people in Syria? I don't know how Syria, actually, one of the reasons that this is more of a recent thing with me is because I put researching Syria off for a while, because I knew that, you know, look, I mean, who likes to look through pictures of like children being crushed by buildings from bombs and having their heads blown off? Like, this is awful shit. But like, I think that's one of the things that is so fucked up about the coverage of Syria by the legacy media, and how people like Obama can make decisions that cause hundreds of thousands of people to be killed, because I don't think that they either are sociopaths and see these pictures and don't give a fuck, or do what a lot of people do and completely ignore it. Now, I'm not saying the average citizen needs to look at these pictures, but obviously if you're in government making these decisions, you're either ignoring that, which is fucking horrible, or you see these pictures and say, yeah, let's do it anyway, because we're fucking sociopaths.
Initially, I hadn't planned on meeting him. When the opportunity arose to meet with him, I did so because I felt it's important that if we profess to truly care about the Syrian people, about their suffering, then we've got to be able to meet with anyone that we need to if there is a possibility that we could achieve peace. And that's exactly what we talked about.
I completely agree with that. One of the things that Obama didn't like to do, or Hillary Clinton, is they just feel like they can walk into somebody's country, tell them what to do, and, you know, remove them if they want to. And because they don't view Assad, whether you like Assad or not, look, he's a horrible dictator. I think he's horrible. I don't like Assad. I'm anti-Assad. However, the fact is, he runs that country. He is the president of the country. So this whole thing is almost like a stubbornness on behalf of the Obama administration to try to fix. And what this is really is, they tried regime change. Let's make an illustration that the regime change was like a small infection on your arm. And the regime change just isn't happening. And so a war is breaking out. It's getting worse and worse for the people in Syria. So the infection is growing and growing and growing. So finally it reached to the point of fucking FUBAR, fucked up beyond all recognition. And it became an overwhelming, pus-filled, disgusting infection to the level where you're almost at a point where you're going to have to chop your fucking arm off. So the only way you're going to resolve this now is to meet with Assad. Frankly, I think strategically you would rather have Assad in place than... This is the thing I never understood. Okay, let's say ISIS and Al-Qaeda beats Assad. So now you're going to have another area where Islamist terrorists are going to have massive land? What the fuck? Because look, at least with Saddam or Assad, they're not sending terrorists over to the country to kill us. It's fucking ridiculous. I never understood what was the end game there. And so, I guess because of his fucking ego, Obama just let the fucking wound fester and fester, and now we're in just a completely fucked up situation. And so it takes people like Tulsi Gabbard to like be brave and stop the bullshit and do something like for the benefit of the country and go get the truth, and then watch how these people attack her on Twitter. I'll show you after the interview.
Now, I know the maxim that people say in the military that you don't make peace with your friends, you make peace with your enemies. But obviously Bashar al-Assad is responsible for thousands of deaths and millions of people being displaced during this 5-year-long civil war. Did you have any compunctions about meeting with somebody like that?
Let me just say really quickly, if you're going to be consistent and you're going to be honest in your argumentation, then if that is your standard, then you would also be opposed to the rebels who are fighting Assad. So obviously that is not a position that allows you to fix this situation. You must accept that both sides have done horrible things, and that's not a reasonable reason to not meet with someone if the side you're supporting are just as evil.
Giving him any sort of enhanced credibility because a member of the United States Congress would meet with someone like that.
Whatever you think about President Assad, the fact is that he is the president of Syria. In order for any peace agreement, in order for any possibility of a viable peace agreement to occur, there has to be a conversation with him. The Syrian people will determine his outcome and what happens with their government and their future. But our focus, my commitment is on ending this war that has caused so much suffering to these Syrian people, to these children, to these families, many of whom I met on this trip. It's important for us to stay focused on doing what is in their best interest and what is in our best interest, and doing what it is necessary to make that happen.
Great answer. She's been handling herself very well, and I think now we're going to get into the more explosive point in the interview when she brings up the fact that the Obama administration has been arming ISIS.
So, Congressman Adam Kinzinger, a friend of yours, also a military veteran, a Republican, he said on Twitter when he heard about your visit, quote, "Fact-finding mission, fact, 50,000 plus dead children in Syria. Tulsi Gabbard, I hope you didn't meet with their butcher, Assad." Now, Assad has used chemical weapons on his own people. You said it's going to be up to the Syrian people, but there really aren't free and fair elections in Syria.
I'll tell you what I heard from the Syrian people that I met with, Jake, walking down the streets in Aleppo, in Damascus, hearing from them. They expressed happiness and joy at seeing an American walking through their streets, but they expressed a question. They said, why is it that the United States, its allies and other countries are providing support, are providing arms to terrorist groups like al-Nusra, al-Qaeda, Arar al-Sham, ISIS, who are on the ground there raping, kidnapping, torturing, and killing the Syrian people, children, men, women, people of all ages. They asked me, why is the United States and its allies supporting these terrorist groups who are destroying Syria when it was Al-Qaeda who attacked the United States on 9/11, not Syria? I didn't have an answer for them.
Obviously, the United States government denies providing any sort of help to the terrorist groups that you're talking about. They say...
First of all, that's bullshit. We have that documented. What the fuck are you talking about? They even admit that they're supporting... This is... Jake Tapper obviously assumes that we're all fucking retards. Because all you have to do... They admit that they fund and arm moderate rebels, and all you have to do is find out who those groups are and what their ties are. That's an easy thing to fucking look up. That's not debatable. Are you fucking kidding me? They admit that they do it. So what are you talking about? Why? Because, I get it. You take ISIS and you take Al-Qaeda and you just relabel them. Oh no, they're not ISIS and Al-Qaeda. They're moderate rebels. Okay, so let's just we'll just start renaming shit. You know, oh, police? No, I didn't murder that guy. I was petting him. What the fuck do you think? Yeah, no, it's called petting. Cutting someone's head off, that's a massage. We're just gonna change words. Ridiculous.
They provide help for the rebel groups. Tell us more about...
The reality is, Jake, the reality is, and I'm glad you brought up that point, because this is an often talked about thing by people like Adam Kinzinger and others saying, well, we've got to support the moderate rebels. Every place that I went, every person that I spoke to, I asked this question to them. And without hesitation, they said, there are no moderate rebels. Who are these moderate rebels that people keep speaking of? Regardless of the name of these groups, the strongest fighting force on the ground in Syria is al-Nusra or Al-Qaeda and ISIS. That is a fact. There's a number of different other groups. All of them essentially are fighting alongside, with, or under the command of the strongest group on the ground that's trying to overthrow Assad. The Syrian people recognize, and they know, that if President Assad is overthrown, then Al-Qaeda or a group like Al-Qaeda that has been killing Christians, killing people simply because of their religion or because they won't support their terror activities, they will take charge of all of Syria. This is the reality that the people of Syria are facing on the ground, and why they are pleading with us here in the United States to stop supporting these terrorist groups. Let the Syrian people themselves determine their future, not the United States, not some foreign country.
And
I do not think there is a person in the world that could have said that better than her at that moment. I think if we lived in a normal society with normal politicians, this would have been and should be one of the most iconic moments in the United States history. Do you understand how fucked up of a situation that we're at, where we have a congressperson who, it's not even that she's providing evidence, it's they admit what they have done. She is simply saying, when you look at the groups the United States under the Obama administration admits that they have armed in this conflict, they are Al-Qaeda and ISIS. It's very simple. We have a person who has gotten on national television and has shown how the Obama administration armed who is arguably the United States' biggest enemy, worst enemy, helped them, armed them. And it's, oh, Tulsi Gabbard's so fucking Russian. Now I'll just, for the sake of, context, play the rest of it. But Jake Tapper has no response to that. That is what I call, what would you call that? Devastating truth, devastating logic. The type of shit that she just finished him. He has nothing. You could not possibly say anything back from that, and he doesn't. He just moves on to another subject.
Been showing video of your trip, from your trip. In the minute we have left, tell us the most striking image you have from your visit to this war-torn region.
Yeah, Jake, the destruction is very real, both on the physical buildings and the things that people have gone through, looking into their eyes and hearing firsthand from a girl who is now 19, but who, when she was 14 years old, these rebels that people say we should continue supporting, they came and kidnapped her. They raped her multiple times. They killed her father in cold blood right in front of her and her little brother. All she is asking for, literally, is for the United States to stop supporting these so-called rebel groups, stop supporting these terrorists, so that the Syrian people can begin to try to get back to some semblance of normalcy in their lives.
Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard, Democrat of Hawaii, thank you so much. We appreciate your...
It was an amazing interview, and one of the things here that needs to be done, I think, before you can even begin with this is, and I think Trump is going to do this, is you have to definitively, once and for all, declare who the fucking enemy is and not tolerate any sort of support for it. And whether it's ISIS, it's Al-Qaeda, it's Islamic terrorists. Islamic terrorists are more of an enemy to the United States than Assad will ever be, or Putin will ever be. So if you have to team up with fucking Russia to take out a group that is as evil as the fucking Nazis, then you do that. And it's just so amazing. And I'm going to have a video that I'm working on about how we are in a situation here where the left has just, not only do they refuse to identify who the enemy is, that they're allowing some of the beliefs of the fundamentalist Islamists into the movements, whether it's feminism, you look at the Women's March, and we're in such a fucked up situation that even if you discuss it, if I discuss it, I might actually, I'm not really sure how I'm going to do it, if I'm going to upload the video to YouTube, or I might upload a video and say, check out the Minds account, because mine doesn't censor. Whether you're on Twitter, and this is the thing, I think, you know, like for example, let's bring up Sargon just for an example. I think people either take the first thing that happens as gospel, or they take the counter argument as gospel. Whereas you have to kind of dig a little further, because Twitter is not going to come out and say, oh, we suspended you because you talked about Islam. YouTube is not going to come out and say, oh, we suspended your account because you talked about Islam. You have to read in between the lines. YouTube will say, we deleted your video because of hate speech. Or Twitter, since porn is generally accepted on Twitter, it's like they will claim it's porn, even though that doesn't make sense. So there have been several people, Sargon included, whose accounts are suspended right after they make a statement about Islam for something porn related, even though it seems in general porn is allowed. There's another guy, I think his ID is Grums, that I follow on Twitter. Similar thing happened to him. He makes a statement about Islam, and then they claim, well, your banner is pornographic, and they suspend your account. So we can't even have a rational discussion about our enemy. And again, the enemy is not moderate Muslims. If you have evidence that moderate Muslims should also be included in this, I don't really see that, but you know, I'll look at it. But we have to get to a point where we are discussing the enemy. And I guess you could also tie this into what Trump did with his executive actions. I haven't fully, I'm in the process of not only, because here's the thing, you know, you go on Twitter and it's, oh, Muslim ban. And I'm like, oh shit, did Trump ban all Muslims? Fuck. So I'm looking, no, he didn't ban all Muslims. He has banned temporarily travel from some countries. And I'm going to get into all of it. I don't agree with all of it, but I also think that it's being misrepresented. And also the Syrian refugees, and how there's people now getting on the air talking about how, oh, it's not a risk at all. When if you just go back to, what, September of 2015, the intelligence community, which these same motherfuckers claim that you should accept as gospel about the PIS dossier and all of the bullshit Russian hacking, well, this same, or members of this same group said that it is a risk to bring over Syrian refugees. That's not my words, that's their words. Now, I'm going to treat that information like I treat any information. I'm going to actually research to see if that's true, because it would be hypocritical on my part to say, hey, this article says that the DHS or whoever says that bringing in Syrian refugees is a risk, so there you go. No, no, no. I have to actually find out if that's true, because maybe that isn't true. I don't know yet. That's what I'm currently working on. But finally we have Tulsi Gabbard speaking honestly about what's going on in Syria. Now let's look really quick what's happening. Representative Tulsi Gabbard has turned into a stooge for Syria's dictator, who will primary her. So this is in response, this cuck, in response to a person who's credible, who's a Democrat, telling the truth about what's going on in Syria. And it's not as if the truth about Syria doesn't have civilian lives on the line. It's not, you know what I mean? Like, they act like, oh, like, again, to take this position, you have to throw the civilians in Syria under the bus. And these are the same people that will exploit that child in that picture to try to get their point across. It's a immoral, disgusting position to be had. Now, some people take it unknowingly. They don't research hard enough. They just take the party line. Those people, I guess I can hold less accountable for the evilness of it. But some people that know the truth and still defend the narrative, these are fucking evil people. This is just revolting beyond measure. Hawaii Representative Tulsi Gabbard, who claims to be a member of the Democratic Party. So what do you mean she claims to be a member of the Democratic Party? She is a fucking member of the Democratic Party. Recently took a secret freelance trip to Syria without informing either Paul Ryan or Nancy Pelosi, as would be customary. Well, the State Department knew, so fuck you. And on her return, she tried to keep up the secrecy, refusing to say whether she met with the country's murderous autocratic president, Bashar al-Assad. Really? She didn't go right to CNN and tell them? Oh, interesting. So anyway, blah, 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 all of this shit where it's just like attacking her. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, you know what's going to eventually come next. First, we're going to go over this. I'm not going over the article, but I'm just pointing out the argument. Tulsi Gabbard's fascist escorts to Syria. This is a person who basically can't argue with her facts, so they have to use ad hominem. So what they do is they look into the people who escorted her, and apparently because of some shit they did in the 50s and 80s and 90s, suddenly she's a Nazi. That's basically this argument. And then of course you have Twitter, and guess who's also going to be called a Russian agent? Tulsi Gabbard. Oh, of course, she's a Russian spy. So we have, oh, here we go. First of all, this one's hilarious. It's time for Democrats to start, in response to Tulsi Gabbard, it's time for the Democrats to start calling for impeachment due to Russia and business conflicts. This is the regime that has killed 500,000 of his own people and is propped up by Iran, Russia, and Hezbollah. Truly disgusting, Tulsi Gabbard. No kidding. And she's saying that to Tulsi Gabbard plus Russia. Tulsi Gabbard plus Russia, and you get a pretty good sense of what her deal is right quick. Or Google it. Kucinich is super pro-Russia now and went to Syria with Tulsi Gabbard on her most recent Assad vacation. Oh, that's funny. Oh, this is a good one. Good job, Tulsi Gabbard. A secret visit to Syria's Assad, praised by both Russia and the KKK. So she's Hitler, she's a Nazi, she is a member of the KKK, and she is, did I miss one? They're probably going to get Islamophobic, homophobic, racist, all in there. Let's see what else. Tulsi Gabbard meets with Assad. Assad's allies include Russia, Iran, and Hezbollah. Did Trump prompt her? What kind of thinking is this? These people are retarded. Here we go. Tulsi Gabbard is having secret meetings with Putin allies, is socially conservative, but she's the Bernie-crat's great hope. Come on. Oh my God. So it's Russia. I mean, I think that's pretty much... Oh, I just published, this is from a person that is a terrorist sympathizer. I just published Russia's Ministry of Defense, Tulsi Gabbard, wrong about moderate rebels. How? Okay, do you understand, for her to be wrong about moderate rebels, so that means that ISIS and Al-Qaeda are moderate rebels? I mean, there's no two ways about this. This is not, again, you're trying to label shit cake. Like, that doesn't work. If any normal person, if you present them with a steaming pile of shit and you say, would you like a slice of cake? They're going to look at you like you're a fucking crazy person. Tulsi Gabbard, start at home by opposing Trump. Stop supporting Russia. Oh my God. This is how the left deals with American heroes. And here's another thing. The right's also attacking her. There's people on the right. So this really isn't... This whole thing with Trump and all this shit and reality isn't even just a left versus right thing. It's really establishment versus the people. It's establishment versus the people. I don't think it's liberal versus conservative, although the majority of liberals are fucking crazy. So there you go. That is how it is dealt with. A person doing a heroic thing for the civilians of Syria, and that's how it's treated by the left. Hopefully, I think there's a good chance that Trump is going to maybe consider talking with her, and perhaps there can be, I mean, they have to do something here. You have to wipe out ISIS. There's no two ways about it. And it's just amazing that, you know, when Trump talks about it, I might do an article on this one. The NYT editorial board, horrified that Trump wants to fight radical Islamic terrorism. And from the research I'm doing, I'll give you a little quick, and this is how I'm going to end it. I'll give you like a quick synopsis, a sneak peek. It seems as though there is a strategy in Islam to kind of like do the shit that is happening like with the Women's March. You hide, and this is what the cult that I was in did. You hide certain aspects of the religion. It's called, like the cult I was in called it spiritual warfare, or no, not spiritual warfare. They called it theocratic warfare. And what that meant was, if someone asked you about your religion, you would lie. You know, if they would say, well, what about Sharia? You would say, oh, no. Sharia can be, you can be gay under Sharia, no problem. They deliberately lie so they can come into your society, and then they will outbreed you. And again, I'm not saying, understand something, for the people claiming I'm an Islamophobe, I'm not even saying they're doing that. I'm saying this is what is being taught. This is what is printed. Okay, how can you, if I'm simply relaying to you what is printed, how is that my fucking fault? How does it make me, that's like saying I'm anti-Christian for pointing out that there are scriptures to say to stone homosexuals. It's what's written. What the fuck do you want from me? So anyway, this is like a developing story. It's going to be interesting to see, because that interview happened yesterday. So I can't imagine what they're going to do to this girl. But as far as I'm concerned, she's one of the very few, I'm not going to say good politicians, but she's a politician that doesn't suck right now. That's how I will categorize it. I am the Hard Bastard. Thank you for watching.
Turkey won't win your bread.